Everyone wants the sneaky beaky red team test, but I'm going to tell you something most people in the industry don't want to talk about out loud. For most clients, a physical security walkthrough is actually way more valuable. People think red teaming means breaking in, dressing up like a contractor, picking locks, doing some Hollywood entry stuff. I get it, it's fun, get you tons of cool stories, but the goal isn't to produce a cool story. The goal is to make the client more secure. So the method that actually does this most of the time isn't the sexy one, it's the walkthrough. So let's start with the core issue. A physical pen test gives you one or two entry scenarios, but a walkthrough reveals most of them. So the covert pen test tells you, here is how I got in today. It doesn't tell you how many ways I could have gotten in, why the weaknesses exist, how many other areas are misconfigured or insecure, what are the entire ecosystem of hardware, like what is it doing, where your cameras, packs, sensors, and locks are failing, how bad the install quality is, how much money you're wasting. You get to see a few stars, but you don't get to see the whole galaxy. And honestly, most clients need to see that galaxy. So when I do a walkthrough, I'm not just guessing, right? I'm showing the client in real time everything a covert test reveals and more. So during the walkthrough, I'll show things like that door can be pulled open because the mag lock is just a hair misconfigured or off, right? That single pole sensor on that door contact can be bypassed with a simple magnet. A camera whose focal length is incorrect for that area, a server room that should be treated as a vault, but it isn't, a gate that looks secure, but has no sensor confirming it's closed, right? Or a rolling door with zero anti-lift protection, a reader mounted with no anti-tamper, right? These are things that can lead to real problems. So let me give you a real world example. Of course, I can't give you any names, but a company hired me for a covert entry test. They wanted that sneaky beaky stuff, right? Full Hollywood, dress up, bypass everything, sneak around day and night, the whole show. I told them, you don't need that yet. You need a walkthrough. But they said no, they wanted to go for the covert op. I said, fine. So I set up a gold-based test, right? So we get in, we get out, get the flags, undetected, get paid. So that's what I did. I got in easily. I used two vulnerabilities, right? A back door that I slipped the latch, and then a tool I made called the Keys to Silicon Valley to open another double doors on the inside. You know what that report looked like? It took me 30 seconds to get in your building, and this is how I did it, right? They didn't really learn of anything, even though I tried to structure the report for that. So 6 months later, I convinced them to do a walkthrough. The report took weeks to write this time. It was information-packed, and it cost them 1/8 the cost of that first test. If we had only done that, sneaky beaky covert entry test, they would have fixed the problems with those two doors and believe, probably the building is now secure. And you see, that's the danger of just doing a covert physical pen test. The remediation often creates a false sense of security. A covert test produces a story. A walkthrough produces change. When I'm doing a walkthrough, I can explain, here's why this is vulnerable. Here's how an attacker thinks about this, right? Here's the bypass techniques for these doors. Here's what the camera should be seeing. Here's how we fix this. It becomes interactive. It becomes educational and transformative. Clients walk away not only knowing what the problems are, but how they happen now, why they happen, and how to prevent them. The little sneaky beaky covert test can't give you all that. It can show you the symptoms, but it doesn't show you the disease, right? One of the biggest benefits of a walkthrough is that it rewrites people. In a good walkthrough, I watch a team go from I've never noticed that to, oh wow, that's a huge issue. They start spotting problems they've never seen before. Security people begin to think like attackers, right? Facility staff starts looking at their building differently. IT staff starts understanding their impact on physical security, right? A covert pen test does none of these. It just gives them a cool story and gives you some adrenaline. But it doesn't raise their awareness to the same degree. It doesn't train their eyes, right? A walkthrough does. Now, let me be clear. I'm not against covert red team tests. They have a place, right? They're great. When a client already has fixed all the basics, right? The hardware is solid. The culture is mature. The processes are proven. Leadership wants to validate responses. You're testing escalation paths, right? Alarm, SOC behavior. Your organization already knows where those easy problems are and you fix them. Now, that covert entry test makes sense. But most clients, they're nowhere near to that point, right? They need to learn what's broken first. So yeah, that's why I say a physical security walkthrough are more valuable than just pure covert entry tests for most clients. The walkthrough shows you most of the vulnerabilities, not just one or two paths I choose to exploit that day. The walkthrough explains why the system fails, right? It teaches your team to see. It saves you lots of money. It gives you a roadmap and it produces a path for real improvement. Now, if you want to learn how buildings and physical security can really fail, as well as how to fix them, give us a like and subscribe. We're not just here to teach you how to break in. We're here to make security better. As always, stay safe, be smart, keep hacking.